Are you in constant turmoil about what to actually do with your life? Do you keep changing your mind on a regular basis and never actually commit to anything? Well, that makes two of us. Buckle up, buds, because we're going to be talking about feelings, following your gut, and being lost in existence. Cool. So I consume a lot of how to figure your life out, how to get your life on track, how to figure out what to do with your existence style content, like a lot of this sort of stuff, a lot of Brene Brown, a lot of Mark Manson, a lot of James Smith, a lot of Mel Robbins style stuff. And my brain is full of all this real quality life advice from these people, which just feels entirely true, but I'm not great at actioning it. I honestly think that I would make quite a good life coach because I'd be really good at telling other people what to do with their lives. I just struggle to action it myself. I mean, to be entirely fair on myself, I have made progress. It's not like I've been completely stagnant this whole time, but I feel like I just need to make bigger steps than what I have been making, and not making decisions regarding my career prospects is causing me a lot of stress, and I really need to sort that out instead of just tiptoeing around it all the time, trying not to look it directly in the eye, you know? I'm currently enrolled to study and have technically begun studying 2 different postgraduate courses at 2 different universities. Part-time, but I'm studying nutrition at one and media at the other. I'm also working part-time and searching for more work because this work is quite inconsistent and I need something a bit more consistent to live on. I'm trying to exercise every day, maintain a relationship with my friends and family. I'm trying to produce a video a week for this channel and my gaming channel, as well as my TikTok account, as well as recording and producing a podcast with my friend. And I'm starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed. I may have bitten off more than I can chew. Potentially. I keep thinking that I can do everything, like I technically have the time, but then while I'm working on one thing, other things will fall behind. Like this channel, I didn't upload anything to it for months because I got so distracted studying nutrition. And I know that some people, for example, manage to work full-time as a doctor while hitting the gym constantly and getting shredded whilst learning 4 languages and maintaining a successful YouTube channel. But you know what? I'm starting to think that I'm not one of those people. My brain is always going off on a million different tangents, and I find it really, really hard to just choose one thing and stick to it, or even 2 things and stick to them, because I'm always changing my mind about what the best course of action is. Thinking about one thing I want to do will trigger a thought about 5 other things that I really want to do, and then those will trigger adjacent thoughts about other things, and then it's just like a jumble. And on any particular day, I can feel really sure about one path that I'm on, and I'm like, yes, this is it. This is the right thing to do. And then the next day, my brain's like, what were you thinking? This is a terrible idea. You should be doing this. But then I'll probably look back to it about a week later and decide, no, it is the right thing to do. And I keep thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, and I'm not actually doing. And I've been doing this for years, practically my entire adult life. And at 30, it's not funny anymore. Is this resonating with you? But no matter how many random trajectories my brain decides for me, career-wise, life-wise, I always seem to come back to acting and YouTubing. And to be fair, I actually have had relatively good success in these areas in the last 6 months. So then I think, well, is now the time to go all in? I'm 30, I've had better success than I've had in years. Is now the time to just drop everything else and go full ham on the creative front? Like, imagine if I put all of my time and energy that I put into everything else, just hone that in on acting and YouTubing. But what if it takes 5 more years to get to a point where I can actually live off these things? Where does that leave me? 30 to 35 with no income? That's not gonna fly. My coffee's gone cold. And sometimes nutrition seems like a really good idea. I was overweight as a child and again in my mid-20s, and I've learned a lot over quite a few years. So what if I had this job 3 days a week where I could give people advice in an area that I find interesting, and then 3 more days of the week, I use that money to work on creative endeavors and just keeping myself alive in general. And then 1 day a week, I just have to relax and not do anything and breathe. Like, logically, it seems like a good idea, but then is it just a distraction from what I really want to do because I am scared of either failure or possibly success. When I was expressing these feelings to my friend the other day, she sent me a short Instagram video and it said, "You're not indecisive. You've made a decision to be stuck." And I literally put my phone down and I laughed because it just felt so accurate. And I know there's more to it than just, you've made a decision to feel stuck. Like, there's probably a whole slew of things like imposter syndrome, fear of failure, fear of success, societal pressures. There's probably so much that impacts this. But when it really comes down to it, there's a good chance that I'm not doing things because it's in a way easier to be stuck than to make a decision at this point. I also have anxiety, if that wasn't entirely evident from the ramblings that you've just experienced, which probably isn't super surprising because loads of people have anxiety these days and people are getting better just talking about it on the internet. But after years and years of being like, nah, I'm fine, I'm just gonna choose not to be anxious anymore. I don't need therapy because I'm a man and men don't have feelings. I've been seeing someone for about 4 months now, seeing a psychologist, not dating someone. And it's good, but this also takes up a fair bit of mental energy. You know, it's just another thing for my brain to focus on. And there's only so many hours in the day and so many days in the week and so many weeks in a life. So what do I do? Well, for quite a while now, this thought has been just re-emerging in my head, just keeps popping up. And that is, follow your gut, because it knows what's up. And I've read this, heard this, seen this online in books, podcasts, everywhere so many times. And if I look back in the past at when I've followed my gut, it has always turned out well. I don't think I've ever followed my gut and been like, well, fuck, I wish I didn't do that. What if that's the answer? What if instead of wasting hours trying to logic my way into a conclusion about what to do with my life, I just really tried to tune in to what my gut was telling me to do? Because how many times have you tried to make a decision about something and you had a gut feeling about it, but you kept thinking about it, trying to get the best logical answer, but then you just come back to what your gut was telling you to do anyway? Honestly, I'm just so sick of overthinking everything. If I spent half the amount of time I spent overthinking on any task that I thought about doing, I'd probably be really good at whatever that thing is. So here's what I'm gonna do. Firstly, I'm going to put an end date on this. 3 weeks from now is census date. So if I want to drop one or both of the courses, then I need to do it by this date. So that seems like as good a date as any to make some life decisions by. So I'm gonna take up to the next 3 weeks to just tune in and listen to what my gut is telling me about the things that I'm doing. Are they serving me? Are they energizing me? Or is it just something that I've already committed a lot of time to and now I feel like I'm committed to it for that reason? And I'm focusing on university here because it's quite a clear action if it's not serving me. Drop the course. Drop the class, stop doing it. But you know, if over the next 3 weeks I find that I'm really not enjoying YouTube or acting, I highly doubt it somehow, but the idea is whatever I'm not feeling in the next 3 weeks, don't do it and see how I feel about not doing it. I feel like I just want to point out that I spilled coffee on myself before this. I'm already also a week behind on all of my classes because I just keep filming YouTube videos and TikTok videos instead of doing homework. So that's probably a pretty good indicator of how this is going to go. But anyway, wish me luck. Here comes the first update. I'm feeling quite good about the whole YouTube thing. Like after recording that video, I feel energized, and not energized as in like I'm buzzing with energy, though I kind of am, but I've had a couple coffees. I feel this sense of being on the right path with the YouTube thing. Like YouTube, creating content is something that I want to do. I feel like I was connected and present while I was making that video in a way that I don't feel present a lot in day-to-day life because my brain's going everywhere. My gut feels good about it, essentially. Anyway, till the next update. So I've just logged in to do a lecture and I have no drive for it. I can't be bothered. I'm actually meant to have my first assignment due for this. I'm gonna drop this unit. This is just, I just don't
I don't care. It's all about like scientific research and stuff. And like, I love science. I do find science very interesting. But reading scientific literature, I just don't have the drive to do it. And maybe it's because of my first degree where I felt like I was stuck in it. But I'm feeling this like I'm just wasting time doing this. Like, I feel like I'm just trying to like get through it because I'm using up this time that I could be using on something else. Honestly, couldn't even get through the abstract. It's just, ugh. Yeah.
All right, check it. So I've got 11 days left until my final decision is due. Also, I shaved and I don't really like it, and I also got a haircut, which I do kind of like. But anyway, so I've been sitting here doing homework, and I just feel like I haven't really like made any headway with anything, and I feel like I'm sort of micro-procrastinating constantly, and I'm not really loving the content, and there's all this work to do. And they said sort of like, oh, just casually make your way through this. I'm doing one subject. And I'm like, I don't understand how some people are working full time whilst also doing this course full time, because there's just so much reading for this one subject. But just to make it more annoying, half the links they've given us don't work. And I'm like, if it's annoying me, then why am I doing it? And then I just keep thinking, well, isn't Skillshare a lot more efficient? I'm going to learn the skills. I don't have to do assignments. If I just put the time that I'm putting into these classes and just put that toward developing my own skills, isn't that a more logical thing to do? So I'm really thinking like I'm going to end up ditching this class. So the nutrition class that I was fairly sure I was going to drop after the last video check-in, I have not even looked at that. And that makes my decision for me. I'm going to drop that class. It's hard because, so it's really hard to know what to invest one's time in. Like if money wasn't an option, which is what a lot of people say, if money's not an option, what would you do? I would do YouTubing and acting. That's what I would do. Though there are times when I start thinking like, well, is that going to make me happy in the long run? Because I occasionally just have something enter my head, like, what about science though? What about the environment? What about animals? I just had such a good offload vent psychology session with my camera, which had run out of space. So I don't know which one exactly it cut off. I should probably check that actually. As I said, I'm always torn with different thoughts and I can never just narrow one down. But I think the fact that I'm still interested in making content for YouTube, considering I started when I was 16, first making content, and now, you know, I'm 30. Well, sometimes I think, well, if I really wanted to do it, I would have been doing it by now. I shouldn't have to push myself. But I think that fear is a really powerful thing. And I also think that I didn't used to have a growth mindset. Like, I was like, well, I'm not immediately blowing up. I can't be good and I'll never be good. Whereas now I'm like, I'll keep making stuff till I am good. And then additionally, I think, well, if I didn't want to do it, I wouldn't still be doing it. The fact that I am still doing it after 14 years, even if before I was doing it really inconsistently. I read a meme, like a motivational meme a long time ago that said something like, if it's still on your mind after all this time, then it's probably what you should be doing. And I think that's most likely very true. And the other thing about me making YouTube videos for 14 years is that it was so inconsistent. I probably went a year or two without making anything. You know, why subscribe to someone who one week is doing a language challenge and then the next week is talking about a new video game coming out and then the next week is talking about minimalism and then the next week is doing an unboxing, like all over the place, right? And again, not to say none of the content was good, but it's like you need some sort of consistency and I wasn't committing to anything. And I think that's another thing as well. Like you got to commit to something to become good at something. You've got to grow a brand. And I wasn't really doing that. I was just like, when I had a surge of energy to make something, I made something and then I got overwhelmed and I quit, or something got in the way, which is the thing, right? I've always had something to take up my time and my energy, which may have been, you know, a subconscious decision to distract myself. As my friend's thing on the internet said the other day, you've made a decision to feel stuck. Most likely, I'm either scared of success or I'm scared of failure, and I have been for years. And so instead I do things like commit to a university course, which feels productive, but actually is just a distraction from what I really want to do. And the whole idea around energy and things that energize you, things that deplete you, came from Mel Robbins. I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but she said, a lot of people say, I don't know what to do with my life. And she said, pretty much, I'm calling BS on that. You probably do know what to do with your life, but you have convinced yourself that you can't have it for whatever reason. You're not good enough, you're too old, you're not talented enough, etc., etc., etc. All these BS excuses that our brains give us to hold us back, keep us into it, and keep us in a more comfortable place in life, right? But she also said, but if you feel like you're lost, you don't know what to do with your life, then for 30 days, I'm not sure if exactly 30 days, but for some period of time, at the end of each day, write down 3 things that energized you and 3 things that depleted you. And I think the things that are energizing me lately, the things that get me this feeling of excitement, of like a fire burning inside, are delving into these shared human experiences, particularly on things that hold us back, and then techniques we can use to overcome them, or mindsets that we can have to move past them. So things like imposter syndrome. So many people have this imposter syndrome and it holds back so much potential. And that's something that, like, I've been looking at my own life being like, God, I've got a shit ton of that. Like, I have multiple university degrees and I still feel completely underqualified to work a real job. And I need to acknowledge that's just my brain fucking with me and move past it if that's what I want to do. And this is also something that Mel Robbins said, actually. She said, when you're speaking to an online audience, when you have an online platform that you're using to speak to people, she said you need to be engaged. So I think you can tell from this conversation, like, I'm feeling alert, I'm feeling engaged, I want to keep talking about it. Whereas there's things that I've tried to do in the past because I thought like this is what I should be doing and they don't engage me so much. At the moment, these sort of topics energize me, so this is what I want to speak about. Self-development, self-improvement, the way that the human brain works and the ways that it fucks with people. But anyway, that's my check-in / therapy session. At the moment, I'm just thinking like, I should just drop everything, shouldn't I? Because it's not really serving me. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you at the next check-in. New check-in. I'm going a little bit mental because I'm trying to finish this thing that is apparently required to be finished in the first couple of weeks of term. There are so many things that aren't working. I need to just take a breath, step back, follow my own advice. Is this energizing me or is it depleting me? It's definitely depleting me. What do I feel drawn to at the moment? I feel like I want to take a Skillshare class. I want to do another Skillshare editing class. And I want to make a new TikTok video. So I'm going to do that and see how I feel after that. Alright, so I took a break from my bloody homework and I edited and captioned a TikTok, which I actually filmed months ago, but just didn't get around to editing, captioning, and uploading. So I did all that and I feel energized. I feel good. I'm really happy that I've done it. I also have a little bit of underlying anxiety that's like, cool, so you made a new TikTok video, but you're still 30 and you really need a job. So like, there is that. But I'm gonna go for a walk.
The internet is listening. I jumped onto YouTube and a very relevant video from Matt D'Avella came up.
The biggest risk that most people can take is following the status quo. The biggest risk is taking the job because it feels like the easy, simple thing to do, and getting 10 years on and realizing that's not the job that you want to take.
I think I've got to take a risk.
Gosh darn it. I just had a session with my psychologist, and it was like heavy, but like, I guess it's not like any sessions are ever not heavy, but it was good.